Hello and welcome to the Green Chemistry and Commerce Council's webinar. We're going to get started in just a minute or two. Hello and welcome to the Green Chemistry and Commerce Council's webinar. My name is Monica Becker. I'll be moderating the webinar today. I'm the co-director of the GC3 and the head of the innovation program for the GC3. So pleased that all of you have come to listen in to this webinar. So today's topic is AkzoNobel's Startup Challenge, Imagine Chemistry, Advancing Sustainability Through Collaborative Innovation. What I'm going to do is just give a little bit of an overview of the GC3 and our GC3 Startup Network, just as a little bit of context for the webinar for those of you who are not familiar with the GC3, and then we'll just quickly get on to the main topic of the webinar today. So for those of you who are new to the GC3, we're a cross-sectoral, full value chain business membership organization. We convene collaborations designed to advance green chemistry innovation and green chemistry practice. And we also advocate for government policy and funding to advance green chemistry. Our mission is to make green chemistry standard practice or mainstream in industry for innovation, public health, and environmental protection. We now have over 120 members across sectors and the value chain, and you see some of our member companies here. And we're growing. We're attracting new members on a regular basis. It's an exciting time for the GC3. So if you're not already a member, let us know. We can tell you a little bit more about the benefits of membership. So this webinar was organized as part of a fairly new initiative within the GC3. It's called the GC3 Green and Bio-Based Chemistry Startup Network. And we have several main goals for the startup network to support green and bio-based chemistry startup companies, really in any way we can, and to introduce our large GC3 members or our large strategics to new technologies as well as opportunities for partnership and investment. We now have over 25 companies that are members of the GC3 Startup Network, and we're signing on more on a regular basis. And these startups are able to tap into our network of large strategics through our mentoring program, which we call our Strategic Connections program. And they can also participate in our technology showcases, where we bring together 10 startups to present and network with our large corporate members. They can also participate in workshops, such as one that we had in February at Levi Strauss on leveraging partnerships to accelerate innovation. Our next technology showcase will be at our next GC3 Roundtable on May 8th, which will be hosted by Eastman Chemical in Kingsport, Tennessee. And new this year, we are about to launch a global competition to identify 10 startups with promising technologies that match the specific green chemistry and material needs of our larger GC3 members. So please keep an eye out for that announcement. All right, so for today, we are so pleased to be able to bring to you a webinar on a very exciting sustainable chemistry program at AkzoNobel Specialty Chemicals. It's called the AkzoNobel Startup Challenge, Imagine Chemistry. It was launched in 2017, and it is now gearing up for a second round in 2018. We're very pleased to have with us Danny Haynes, who is the Common Application Team Member and challenge team member of the Imagine Chemistry program. We have Leonard Clerk, common application team leader for AkzoNobel's Specialty Chemicals. And we also have Jeremy Austin, who's the Director of Business Development for Renmatics. Renmatics is a terrific member of our GC3 Startup Network and was a winner of the 2017 Imagine Chemistry Challenge. So before I turn it over to Danny to start the presentation, I just want to let you know that due to the number of participants in the webinar, all lines will be muted. If you have a question or comment, please type it into the questions box located in the control panel, and you can do that at any time during the webinar, but we will be answering those questions at the end of the presentation. So, okay, Danny, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction, and I would like to thank the Green Chemistry and Commerce Council for this opportunity to do this webinar. I would like to also thank the listeners that are on the call to give me this opportunity to talk about our startup challenge, Imagine Chemistry. So what we'll do is kind of give you a little bit of mindset of why we're doing this, how we did it last time, and the challenges that are going to go live in January. Let's see, there we are. So really our challenge is to make more with less. When you're talking about green chemistry, when you're talking about sustainability, really at the heart of it, that's a critical part. How can we do what we do in a more sustainable way? And we're looking at that by bringing in bio-based raw materials. That's one of the efforts that I do with the company. Energy efficiency, that's a significant part of the challenges this year by looking at doing circular production, biodegradable products. All of these are components that we're looking at to do more with less. So innovation at Specialty Chemicals, we're one of the business areas of AkzoNobel currently. We invest over 100 million euros in RD&I every year. We have over 5,000 patents. And what we're looking for in our innovation is that opportunity for collaboration all along the value chain, from the R&D to product coming into our door and out our door. We're looking in all of those areas for innovation and for collaboration, are critical components. Now, as far as innovation approach, that we have several efforts. As anyone trying to do innovation, you go about that by several different ways. We have opening up an innovation center at our main R&D site in Deventer. We have a partnership working with venture funds, so that we have that option available to us, and also they come to us if they find an opportunity that we might be interested in. We have some very good people doing scouting, screening, venturing of ideas that come into us, participating in technology programs. And the other part of what we do is what I'm going to talk about today, what we call Imagine Chemistry. So as inventors, as people coming up with new things, you imagine, how would this work? How would I do this? And then as a startup, you're working to actually make it happen. And so that's really at the heart of Imagine Chemistry, is trying to connect with those startups and to make it happen. So this year, we have some great challenges. I can give you a little bit of information, but really the big part of that information will come out in January. But our business units have really brought forth some very real life challenges, concerns, and things for our startups to collaborate with. So what we really saw, and again, really was very much a vision of Peter Neuenhaus, who was really instrumental for Imagine Chemistry existing. is that he wanted, what startups bring. They bring those fresh ideas, new perspectives, a passion and energy to see this great concept to become a reality. What AkzoNobel brings is a company that is very good at bringing ideals, developments from the lab into actual production. Very safety conscious, very much an important component. Striving for operational excellence, and we have a global footprint. And so with that presence, that if we can find a technology, if we can find a means to collaborate, that there is a path forward to really make a new concept technology a reality. And it is very much that we want to have these discussions as equals by listening, learning, working with each other. In my role as the bio-based, as working in trying to bring in bio-based chemicals, I've had an opportunity to see, as we've worked with the winners from last year in the JDA, that kind of interaction and collaborating. And again, very much the mindset is to treat each other well and as equals. And I'm very proud of our company's approach and our spirit towards those interactions. And we want to catch your passion. We want to get that. We would be more than happy to be infected with that passion. And again, it was just a marvelous 3 days in Deventer earlier this year, as these very interesting companies came, startups, and we had these discussions. It was just a smorgasbord of innovation and collaboration and working together. Let's see, I jumped there. So, it's a unique approach. What we're talking about is going to impact our business. That what, you bring forward and, in these challenges and saying, hey, here's my concept. These are going to have an impact. And we, the folks that came up, that put these questions together and working them, these are solutions they have a very high interest in. And if they can find that connection, we're going to then put this into practice. And that's even a little sharper focus, I think, in this year's challenge than last year's. Again, a collaborative approach. This isn't like some of these kind of competitions where, you're awarded as a good idea, you're given a little money and, kind of sent out the door. No, we want to work towards joint development. We want that collaboration well after the event. The other thing is that this event, if you're a winner invited to Sweden, it's a one-stop shop. As an individual who tries to bring concepts and products, into the company internally, I was just very envious of these opportunities that the startups had. That first of all, they have the input of very knowledgeable companies of what you've got to do to have a business plan, to get financing, of how to set yourself up. That we had those sessions there. But we also had the decision makers, some of our top-notch researchers there, that I cannot imagine in any way that I could have brought all the people together for anything that I had done internally, that these startups have an opportunity for. And again, it's that spirit of collaborating and working. So a range of different people who are sponsoring this year. We will be having the challenge at Chalmers. They will be hosting us in their facilities, and they will also be looking at that technology and looking to do an award also. So how this works is that in January, the full set of challenges will be online. That we will start accepting submissions, that you can download a very nice description of what the challenges are, what we're looking for, kind of some of the background. And then as you submit your submissions, that the teams, the Imagine Chemistry teams, that they're experts. And so they will be reading your submission. They'll be asking questions. This isn't an open forum. You know, we're not asking for your IP. In fact, we're saying, realize this is kind of an open forum you're in, that not only will AkzoNobel be seeing what you're submitting, but other people who are participating in the challenge in that area will be able to view. And it is, again, kind of this concept of an open innovation, of enrichments, that these are ideals to enrich what someone's already submitted. And you know, not all of the ideals we're able to do quite what we have envisioned here, but I tell you, it is really, really neat when you get in a submission and you start getting some of these enrichment ideals and really carrying that initial concept a little bit further along, even in this point. But there is interaction discussion with the folks who will be making recommendations, so that you can explain your concept, your what you're submitting, and you know, some good interaction there. And so this will be open from January to March. And then we learned from the last competition that we're going to give ourselves kind of April and May to select the finalists. That what happened last year was that, as we should have expected, there was just a huge number of submissions on the last day. And in organizing, we had not given ourselves enough time to go through that. So as a participant last year, I can tell you that was pretty challenging going through. And I think it was our scouting team that got hit the hardest there with those. But from that, we will select the plan is about 20 participants to come to the final the final event, where we can really jointly develop the ideals, that we can explore those opportunities. And again, you're rubbing elbows with some 80 AkzoNobel experts, decision makers, that you're really in a situation where you can discuss your concept. And that was, for me, one of the most enjoyable things, that as different parts of the company were coming in and talking, I was working with Renmatics, but also some of the other participants was able to sit in. The questions that they were really asking, really, I think, were very helpful to the startups, and were also very helpful to us. But again, some very good conversations. And I remember so well, as we were getting ready to go into starting this, Peter says, listen, share with these people, you know, give them your experience, you know, ask those questions to see if we want that technology or if it's of interest to us. And so it was, again, a very intense set of days, and also kind of a warm point, a little warmer than normal in the Netherlands. So it was pretty much a sweat box there in some of those sessions. So just to give you kind of a feel, over here to the right, if you can read real fast, is an ideal was submitted. And this is actually was one of the companies that we did go on to award a JDA. But you know, there's some 40 different experts. We had over almost 700 enrichments. And again, it is during here that we kind of get introduced to the startup companies, ask some of the questions to kind of understand a little bit. But again, it is an interesting time, because typically this is not under a confidential agreement at this point. And so that's respected. We know that there'll be some questions you can't answer, but what you can is appreciated and helpful. So we ended up with over 200 submissions. I believe when we started, the hope was to reach 50, and we passed 50 fairly early on. And then kind of here you have a breakdown of some of the areas of our questioning. I was working with the cellulose-based alternatives, and 24 were submitted there, about 10% of the submissions. And as a fellow who has worked a lot with biomass and understanding the potential of different biomass, I heard about some biomass I had never really thought about. So very educational to me. And again, some very good discussions that went on. This is just a few of the countries. We had, I think, over 100, well over 100, 120 countries. I think we had submissions from, or at least maybe 100. And then it just so happened that the USA was one of the top submitters. So hopefully from our listeners today, they can help contribute to give us that. But I can guarantee you that some of the good AkzoNobel people in some of the other countries are working and planning on getting some good submissions from their homelands. But again, we were just so excited to get so many and some very good submissions, some very interesting startups there. And it ranged. We really had a range of startups participating, and it was fun to get to work with those. So the event itself, I kind of already alluded to some of that. There were 9 master classes because we did indeed have some startups that were at different points, some that were really, really new startups. And so we offered some master classes that they could sign up for if they wanted, from IP to business plan, just a good variety there. We had 80 experts from AkzoNobel and our partners. And again, these were decision makers. These were folks that understood the technology that we were looking for, or what our needs were, and that these expert sessions were really discussions, probing, seeking to understand. And I heard Jeremy and Charles kind of present a lot of the same things several times, but the way the questions were asked to them were different. And so that even though I was hearing some of the same things and then many new things, the perspective was different because of the way the question or what the question was asking. So a 3-day, just again, smorgasbord of innovation and 20 finalists. Don't want to miss that picture. There is our joint development agreement winners from Ecovia, Industrial Microbes, and Renmatics, and you'll be hearing from Jeremy from his perspective very shortly. So again, there's the names of those winners and kind of what they had submitted as an ideal. So that was kind of the big prize, but also again, some of the companies were just not at that point. Some needed to really develop their business plan better, and so KPMG, ICOS was working with that. One company we awarded a rent voucher to be at the Open Innovation Center in Deventer, research agreements, and so the awards really were looking, okay, where are these folks at? How can we help them best? And so that was how the awards kind of were laid out, was based on what we could do, what we thought we could do to help them move forward in their work. So the challenges this year, again, we're very interested in getting these or getting these implemented. We want to see these concepts put into practice. And so the questions, the challenges are laid out very much that way. So one that's kind of really different from what we had in the first challenge, but we have a lot of chemical plants. We produce a lot of chemicals and they're in a plant. And so very critical there. And what we really are hoping to is to really drastically improve our processes by making our chemical plants smarter, more autonomous, more resource efficient. And we think that there's technology out there, that there are people working in that area that can really drastically improve our chemical plants. And so we have a challenge in that area. And so if you have some concepts, if you know some people who are doing some work in this area, there's a lot of interesting things that are being done that we want to hear about. The other area, our next area, is sustainable small particle technologies. That we make micro and nanoparticles that are very useful, that are used in purifying pharmaceuticals, that are used in paints, that are used that actually will expand upon heating. So they're used in a wide variety of areas to provide bulk, but at a lower weight, so that it provides savings there in transport and several other things, giving nice properties. But we would like to hear about more. That again, we have some good experience, good knowledge in small particle technology and making use of them. And so, you know, if you have a sustainable improvement that involves a small particle technology, we have a part of our business that really wants to hear about that. And so we're looking for those new, again, materials, technology, functionalities that we can add to our portfolio. You know, I think always of interest, because in producing chemicals, in the past and still today, we have wastewater, but we want wastewater-free chemical sites. That is a goal of our company, and specifically, several of the BUs are working very actively in this area. And so how can you make our wastewater organic free so we can reuse it, so that we can put it right back into our production? So if you are working with ways for getting rid of really water that has a very high COD level, we would like to hear about it. If you have or know someone who is working at getting some of that lower level, just cleaning the last bit of it, we want to hear about it. So that, you know, some of the other microbial materials, whatever, how we could use that as a product or degradable, we would like to hear about that. And again, we have some business units very active in that. Revolutionizing chlorate production. AkzoNobel Specialty Chemicals are part of our business, is production of sodium chlorate. And we're one of the world's, pretty much a world leader in the production of that. And so it is very energy intensive, and we have gone a long ways towards making it a more sustainable, using sustainable sources. And we've also gone a long way to making it more energy efficient, but we can do more. We know that there's technology out there, that there are companies who are thinking about this, who have experience in electrolytical chemistry or other ways potentially that we could look at, but we want to revolutionize chlorate production. And so one of the critical things is we really would like to be able to remove chromium from the process so that it is not in our process. And, you know, you may have, again, a very different technology or concept, but, you know, if it can be bolted on, if it could be added into our line, we're not expecting to change everything overnight, but we have quite a few plants. And so, you know, if we see some promising technology, if, you know, a startup is selected for this, we're very capable of, you know, setting up, you know, a cell or a system and putting it in kind of into our process and kind of doing an evaluation on that. Again, a very common part of unit operations in producing chemicals is that you want to get your liquid material into powder, and we're very active in doing that. And so we are interested in finding out how can we do, you know, is there new approaches, new technology innovations that are looking at that. And so that is of interest. Now, you know, we're looking at, you know, novel ways of doing that to free-flowing powders, but, you know, we're also interested very much in, you know, crystallization control, particle size, shape control, that, you know, in looking at the submissions in that area, that those are some critical things that we'll be looking at. And then we continue our efforts of looking at surfactant, one of the most innovative parts. I mean, so much of AkzoNobel Specialty Chemicals, really the whole company, but over the last year, I've really had an opportunity to understand what all we do in sustainable and specialty chemicals. And we really have some really good folks, but we don't have all of the smartest folks, and that's the reason we do Imagine Chemistry. But you know, they're really looking at this kind of zero footprint surfactant that we just want to be free. Can we get a good surfactant that's free of ethylene oxide? That you know, if we can get a good performer that can meet so many of the needs. And again, our surface chemistry business unit is so active in so many different areas. And so we're looking for that. We're looking for that zero footprint surfactant platform that can be used in many different areas. And so again, if you've been doing some work, you know some folks that are doing work in that area, we would really like to hear from them. So how do you get involved? Well, right now you can pre-register today at imaginechemistry.com. That will get you registered. That will let you know when the site goes live, give you kind of some build up as things are going. At this point, did not include really for time, and then also we're wanting to really wait to the full launch to make all of the challenges fully available. But you know, if some of these specific challenges that I've mentioned you really have an interest in, email me, let me know, and we can communicate a little more information. On January 10th, 2018, the site will go live. We will take submissions. The challenges are fully available. And then we'll be having our finals in Sweden in June, which is a very nice time to be in Sweden. So again, thank you very much for your participation. And now I turn it over to Jeremy Austin to give you a little different perspective of what it's like to participate in this.
Sure, thanks, Danny. I guess first off, I should thank the organizers and AkzoNobel for letting me participate here and share some of our experiences. Reason being, I think, is as a company, we found the entire event, the construct of it even, to be beneficial, obviously to us for obvious reasons, but I think even to the industry, the way the challenge was put together and how the whole team involved in it came about was really about driving collaboration and mutually beneficial solutions. So we do like to applaud them for doing something as progressive as this. I guess from our vantage point, when I first came across the challenge, which is around this time a year ago, you know, we were sort of in a transitionary period as a company. We had developed a technology platform that deconstructed biomass into its constituent parts, where the early emphasis was around lignocellulosic sugars. Around the same time, we started looking at what other fractions could be isolated from different varieties of biomass, which led to our development of different fractions of cellulose, which incidentally coincided with one of the challenges presented last year. And so we put together, my colleague and I, a submission, something that we were really passionate about, we felt was very strong, very compelling. But to the point Danny made, this was effectively sort of an open forum. You know, it was being sent to Akzo, and our lawyers lawyerized it, and the end result was something that felt devoid of content, to be perfectly frank. But I think we were still urged to submit, and thankfully we did, because it seemed apparent that Akzo had put the right people to review those submissions where, you know, obviously all the secrets weren't going to be divulged, but they had the industry experience and the wherewithal to see the intrinsic value that was there and then make decisions based off of that. So, you know, I guess the point being is certainly rest assured that you can make a submission, obviously keeping IP intact, everything that you would want to keep close until a relationship unfolded, that the appropriate resources were being applied to make sure that the right people were being selected. And so I can't give them enough credit for doing that. And that was truthfully something that was apparent throughout the entire event. So once we were selected as a finalist and had the opportunity to start interacting with Danny and more of the broader team and being invited to the event in the Netherlands, you know, we weren't exactly sure how and what to prepare. And I think to Danny's point earlier, you know, we were in for 3 days worth of talking to a lot of different people, a lot of cross-cut of the organization, and ultimately tried to put together responses to any and all questions that may possibly come up, which is a bit daunting, as you would expect. But the line of questioning, the detail, the depth of knowledge, I can assure you that to the point that Danny was making, you know, this was about sharing. This wasn't about you know, a one-time transaction where Akzo was looking for a technology. We may have had something, thank you very much, and it's done. This was all about fundamentally understanding what we can do. Maybe what we had in the pipeline today was interesting and valuable, but of course, maybe not 100% perfect for projects and applications they had in mind. So what really came through was that the entirety of the organization, the entirety of the team that was participating was really focused and intent on making it successful, which I think in its own right is a bit of uncommon. But it was definitely apparent through every stage of the process that what we were driving towards here was something that had mutual benefits to both us as a startup and them as a big company. I have to admit, I think one of the things that we were concerned with going into the event was around IP. Maybe we were being a little overly cautious in retrospect, but certainly as a startup company, IP is paramount to your success, and oftentimes it's the only thing that you have. And so what we were really impressed was that any concern that we had brought up was addressed thoroughly, swiftly, and to its fullest extent, so that we knew going into this event that we'd be interacting with a lot of different people, but all of the right things were put in place to ensure that there was confidentialities in place, that everyone was comfortable to a point where sharing was an option as opposed to something that was for later, which really made the event significantly more powerful. So I guess my fundamental message here to anyone on the phone who's contemplating or perhaps had contemplated last year submitting, I would definitely advocate towards putting in that submission, just to be assured that the right people are going to be reviewing it and understanding the technology that you're talking about and how it can be applied at AkzoNobel. But also the event itself, you know, if you have the opportunity to be selected as a finalist, simply having spent 3 days with a lot of recognized experts in their field, business leaders, and on all functions of the organization, I think for us, even as a mature startup coming out of that in itself was valuable. So that in itself gave us a very good perspective on how to engage you know, a big company, what's important, how to handle different activities. But so we came out of it, I think, in a better position, and fortunately also came out as one of the winners. So if for nothing else, I would certainly advocate putting in the submission and going through the process and really helping your startup, your technology grow to its fullest potential.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
That's yeah. Sorry, Danny. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, again, kudos to Jeremy and his folks. Again, lots of questions coming from different directions, and he had the slide deck. He would go to this section, that section, whichever section the group was asking questions on. They did an incredible preparation for coming into that event. So they should be very highly thought of for how well prepared they were, and for very intense sessions of questioning.
Great, thank you. That's terrific. Thank you so far, Danny and Jeremy. Excellent presentation. And what I'd like to do is remind folks that they can put questions into the question box in the control panel. And we're going to bring Leonard onto the line as well to answer questions. So we've got a question here. It says, are the topics of the challenges fixed for 2018? Are you open to other topics?
The 6 challenges are fixed, but what we have is a 7th area that's really, you're going into our scouting, screening, and venturing group. And so that if you have something outside of that, we do have a path that you can submit to that group.
Yeah, so maybe to add to that, Leonard Clerk here. You should expect the main focus in the period of Imagine Chemistry, so January to March, to be on Imagine Chemistry. So I think we need to manage expectations a little bit here. I don't think our organization will be able to respond as quickly on the open channel as we will on the Imagine Chemistry challenges.
Okay, very good. Keep the questions coming. So here's another question for you. On the platform that you've developed for the open period, who tends to get on that platform to provide input on the submissions? And perhaps give us some examples of what kind of input or advice tends to be offered on that platform.
Leonard, you have a little bigger perspective of all the different ones. Would you like to answer that, or would you like me to?
No, I can answer that. So we're asking startups to come up with a proposed solution to the question. So that's the first one. So the first one is actually give a description of your solution, and then what is needed to bring it further, and how can AkzoNobel help you with this? So how can we work together? And after that, we will actually, based on the content, we will we have a team per challenge in place. So each team has a group of people with various backgrounds, so both technical and business, and sometimes even sourcing, who from their expertise will ask questions to get deeper into what the proposal is about. I hope that answers the question. Danny, if you want to add anything, that's fine.
Yeah, and then also, we didn't have a lot, but if you're, following a particular challenge, you can also make comments. But most of the comments came from the team that was working on that challenge, and a lot of times it was to try to get a little bit better understanding of the challenge, to maybe ask some questions or try to broaden it out to again get a better understanding. And in some cases it was to say, well, have you considered this or considered that? So some of the responses were kind of, again, very much building on, but all of them were questions trying to understand better the challenge and to maybe get the startup to think about some areas where they have not thought.
Okay, good. Here's another question. What stage of startups are you looking for? Is a lab-tested technology enough?
Definitely was for last year. I think for this year, it's still yes, but what would be very helpful is you do your lab test, you got your concept, but the real, I think, important thing then is to say, here is a potential path for making it a reality. So a good kind of what do we do to make it real is an important component to go with that.
Yeah, maybe to add to it, I think we're actually looking for in the different challenges. We're looking also at different levels of maturity of technology. So, for instance, the intelligent chemical plants, we're really looking for technology that is already has a very advanced proof of concept, so we can implement in 3 to 5 years. But the zero footprint surfactants and the revolutionizing chlorate production, that's a much longer shot. Because we realize that is a very difficult one and we probably need a couple of combination of input or whatever. But yeah, I mean, as said, they're very important questions for our businesses. So we're looking for implementation as quickly as possible, of course, but we need to be realistic there.
So let me follow up with a question on that. So it seems like you might have a different time horizon and might be open to earlier stage versus somewhat later stage technologies, depending on the specific technology area. Is that spelled out, or will that be spelled out on the website when the details of these technology areas are launched, or is that something that interested parties could email you about or get information on in the platform?
Yeah, so we on January 10th we'll publish the full challenge descriptions, and if anyone's interested in a specific one, they can get in touch with Danny so we can communicate already with it. And the challenge descriptions give an indication on how quickly we want to implement, and in some of them it's really specific, like 2 to 3 years implementation or 3 to 5 years. In some of them it's a little bit more open, so there people should expect also us considering longer term ideas, but we will definitely as a minimum need a lab level proof of concept. So we're not really looking at sort of literature based studies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no white papers, some proof of concept.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Excellent.
Because they're really hard to judge for us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But you know, if you just look at the winners for the JDA, you've got Renmatics, who's done so much good work and brought their technology so far along. Just, you know, you can taste it. Whereas you know, some of the other winners there, you know, they're not very far along on their startups. And so if you even look again at last year's, there was a broad range of where those companies were in startups. But at least this year, again, some of the very specific challenges, we're looking for opportunity to implement as soon as we can. So, but others, as Leonard said, you know, we know that where everybody is at is not ready to go out the door, and you know, we're open to hear those ideas and to talk to those startups. And that's, I mean, again, I mean, you know, for the level of people that you got to interact with as a startup, you just rarely get that kind of opportunity.
Good. Okay. Can universities participate in the challenge program, or is this only for established startups?
Last year we had some universities. I believe those mainly were kind of went through the venturing, our venturing group is where most of those ended up. But again, if you look at the list, some were kind of more university. I think generally, you know, you kind of go with your technology support there at the university. You know, the preference is kind of more of a business, especially with these. And if you consider the awards, it's not necessarily, you know, we'll give you 3 years of funding or something like that. But, you know, there were some universities that I believe our venturing team opted to kind of continue to work with.
Yeah, so maybe to add to that, will evaluate the submissions for selection to the finals based on a couple of criteria. Maturity of the technology is one of them, but if we, of course, we're not going to miss out on the golden egg from a university, but it's something to keep in mind that the chances for getting further into collaboration are bigger if your proposal is more mature.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay, I've got a long question here. Let me see if I can read this. My window is a little bit truncated. Let me see here. Sorry about this. Okay, in regard to the different challenges, in order to propose real innovative solutions, will you indicate on the platform from your side more in detail what are your specific problems and expectations, or will you keep it completely open?
This year, the sheets that they've worked up, in my opinion, are very informative. You get some background, you get for what we're looking for, areas we're really not looking for, but we also, do leave it open. There is that option there, but I believe the submitters will get a very good feel for what we're kind of looking for to help craft their submission much better than last year. It is a definite improvement and should be helpful in putting together the proposal. And with this open innovation, you can ask questions. You're kind of registered. I think, can they ask questions before they submit a proposal, Leonard?
There will be the contact details of a challenge team lead on the platform, so you can. Each of the challenge has a challenge team with someone leading that, and if you have questions about the challenge, you should feel free to reach out to the challenge team lead. But alternatively, you could also just put something as an idea on there, and then we'll work out together and build on that. But if there's anything unclear and you're in doubt, you can reach out to the challenge team lead.
Okay, great. So who actually does the judging?
There's two kind of levels. There's first of all the actual team that you're interacting with. They kind of do a markup and evaluation, and then that goes generally to the sponsors, right, Leonard? For the BUs.
So each team has a sponsor backing them as well. The sponsors are the research, development, and innovation directors of the business unit. So they're people with high enough authority to actually decide if they want to go into collaboration. So they play a really important role. So the challenge teams will shortlist. Then there's the sponsors together with a steering team from Imagine Chemistry. So that's from our business area level, which includes, for instance, our business area RD&I director, Peter Nieuwenhuizen. And they will select the 20 startups for the finals. Then during the finals, there will be a jury, again with the sponsors involved, and some other subject matter experts, and also the RD&I director of specialty chemicals. And last year, actually, the jury was chaired by the specialty chemicals CEO. So he was also part of that process.
And what you also will have, if coming to the event, will sort of have a mentor, an internal person from AkzoNobel kind of championing you. And I will tell you that was very interesting going before those set of judges to discuss Renmatics and to ask some of their questions. So again, several levels there of who's looking, but those final decisions are made by senior folks for specialty chemicals.
All right, good.
And that's something most startups don't get that kind of opportunity. I mean, you can imagine where most startups are. You just don't get that opportunity to, again, have you know, our the head of our company, who actually, I mean, has moved on in, is the head of all of AkzoNobel, you know, involved there and hearing about this technology. So again, a fantastic opportunity to really work your way into the core of what AkzoNobel is, or our AkzoNobel people.
Good, yeah, and this is a good follow on. So there's a question about how integral this Imagine Chemistry program is to Akzo's overall R&D strategy. And, you know, here there's a little bit more to that question. Let me read that. So how integral is it to the overall R&D strategy, and how do you measure success for this program, and what you've learned in terms of whether this type of program and innovation direction is kind of the direction that you're going to continue to pursue for AkzoNobel?
Yeah, so maybe I can answer that one. So we did that. We did this for the first time in 2017, and this was an adventure for us as well. But we're getting so much out of it, both in collaboration with startups, which is the eventual goal, because in the end we just want to do business with the startups and get their fresh ideas and get them implemented in our business. But maybe to indicate the success, so last year we were doing this really from a research development side, and this year it was the business general management pulling and sort of pushing for the specific questions, and so we have much higher level alignment now. The fact that our CEO from the AkzoNobel Chemicals said last year during the finals, like, this is so successful, we should make this a process, which is basically big corporate talk for we're going to continue in doing this. We really believe that this is the way of doing innovation. Of course, we have 750 people working in R&D in our company, but there are so many more innovative minds outside. So it's really a central part of our innovation strategy. It's just one of the important pillars there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we should see this program continuing beyond 2018 is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are never guarantees in this world, but yes, that's
right.
very much the intention. Yeah.
Quite likely. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, I think that's all that we have in terms of questions, and what I would like to do first and foremost is to thank our terrific presenters, Danny and Leonard and Jeremy, for your time in preparing for this and for shedding light on this exciting program. And as our presenters know, the GC3 has offered to support the company AkzoNobel in whatever way we can in terms of sending relevant startups and other innovators their way for this competition. And so you'll see some notices on LinkedIn and so forth as the AkzoNobel Imagine Chemistry website gets updated. And if you need emails for any of our presenters, just reach out to me. I think most of you know how to get in touch with me, or just send an email to the GC3. So we're going to continue to support this effort and learn from it for our own GC3 Startup Network activities. Let me just show you one last slide. This is a little bit of GC3 promotion. I just want to remind everybody we've got our annual meeting, our annual GC3 Innovators Roundtable coming up May 8th through 10th, which will be hosted by Eastman Chemical Company at their headquarters facility in Kingsport, Tennessee. And at that same time, we will have our third annual Green and Bio-Based Chemistry Technology Showcase and Networking event. That's the one I mentioned earlier, where we'll have 10 startups presenting and some good networking. So stay tuned for more details on that. And once again, thank you very much to Danny, to Leonard, and to Jeremy for your time on this webinar and for shedding light on this exciting program. And thank you everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful day.